I also think it's so way past time to be against something and so way past time to start being for something. And we have. Together, we've built some amazing things. But we have to convince the rest of the world, after we've convinced all of our neighbors and even our own family members, that we are the people. And now is the time to fix things. And we can. There is reason to have great optimism. The things that are just over the horizon are incredible. They will be written about in history books one way or another, good or evil, disaster or miracles are right over the horizon, and we will be remembered for which one we choose. What's coming over the horizon is nothing compared to what we've seen. We're about to cure cancer. Now, maybe you don't believe that because it hasn't happened yet. It's overwhelming. But we've already cured disease beyond people's wildest imagination. We cured polio, and we administer it with a sugar cube. We can crack somebody's chest open and give them a replacement heart. 2 weeks ago, my wife was in the hospital, and she had to have exploratory surgery. I hadn't heard somebody having exploratory surgery in I don't know how, since I was a kid. You just open them up and see what's wrong? Really? That doesn't sound like a good idea. You don't have to do that anymore because of CAT scans and MRIs. When my dad was a kid, he said he didn't think he would ever go to the moon, that people would never do that. We've been there and back several times. Voyager just left our solar system. The Wright brothers 100 years ago were on a field trying to get off the ground. Man had been trying to do that since the beginning of time. It happened here in America. Don't tell me we can't do it. Don't tell me now is not the time. We will change the world. Now is the time. We are the people. We will do amazing things. Cancer is just the beginning. I know 3 American hospitals that are on the verge of curing all cancer right now. 3 of them. It is going to happen if we don't blow it. Now, how do we blow it? By choosing to give away our individual creativity and power. To settle for the crumbs instead of the promise of the future. This election, you have to decide. Are you a cancer-curing person, or are you somebody who says, I just want to have what I have? What we have now is crap. It's not good enough. It was built by another generation. It's time for this generation to build. But don't tear down, build up. See, I am an optimist. I have been pessimistic for a long time, which is highly unusual for me. The last 7 years have been very unusual in my life. And I've been pessimistic because I have seen the patterns of history repeat. But I am at heart an optimist because I have seen the patterns of American history, and they're about to repeat again. Know this, a better tomorrow is coming, but it is not pain-free. And it's not free of action either. Regardless what happens November 6th, things will still get tougher before they get better. We're doing a show on Friday that I don't want you to miss. It's on Israel. It has been a year now, I can't believe that, since restoring courage. The tension in the Middle East has only intensified. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad told worshipers just the other day, celebrating Quds Day, that the existence of the Zionist regime is an insult to all humanity. Oh. If he was just a crazy nut job with no influence, it'd be easier to overlook, but he's not. And Iran is making global alliances that, oh man, I wish Winston Churchill was here, because boy, would he be awake. There's a brand new axis of evil. So Friday, we're going to air a show that we recorded last night. I talked to a panel of top military leaders and CIA and Intel, and I just asked them, what is coming? I have to tell you, when these guys who you will really respect, one of the guys on my security team said, Is that who I think it is? I said, yeah. You know him? He's like, are you kidding me? The guy's a legend. I said, I know. These guys sat here right on that couch, and they actually told me the world's coming undone, and it's coming undone rapidly, and we could be in World War III in months. A serious possibility. None of them would say that was going to happen, but they were concerned. Everything they have to say will be on Friday's show, but tonight I want to talk to you about what you will not see on Friday's show, the conversation that happened after the camera stopped rolling. As terrifying as some of the things these guys were talking about with global wars breaking out, I think it was more terrifying to hear them talk about something else. How does America react? If there's a banking crisis where the banks close for a month, if there is a real serious crisis and there's food shortages because there's a disruption in power, things will deteriorate so rapidly. How does America react? Unforeseen problems like droughts are going to become an increasing threat to global stability and to our stability. Food prices are skyrocketing. I don't have to tell you that. I mean, you've been to the store, you've been watching this show, you've been following it. Look around. I don't want to ask you about you. I want to take it up one level. What are the chances your neighborhood or your state is actually going to be prepared for when it all comes crashing down? Is anybody else in your neighborhood, is anybody in your state, is there a single representative or is your governor finding ways to be self-sufficient? Or are they just burning 1/3 of our corn to produce fuel? I want to tonight give you an action step that you can take. I want you to call your state representative and ask them, are you doing anything in case of a severe food shortage or economic collapse? Is our state doing anything? Is your plan to ask for a bailout from the federal government and wait till the FEMA trucks come? Or are you taking measures right now, like our parents and grandparents did in the 1950s and 60s with civil defense? They prepared themselves so they would be self-reliant and ready for anything. Boy, isn't this amazing that we would store food as a nation, all over the nation? That we would have things, water, food, everything ready in case the Soviet Union would blow us to kingdom come. But now that's crazy to think, hey, maybe we should all be prepared as a state. What are you doing to be ready for anything? What are your neighbors doing? What's your family members doing? Because it really goes back to this. Are you someone who believes that we are capable of great things and they're just over the horizon? That's pretty monumental. But the choice is, I just want my stuff. I just want my stuff. I just want my scraps. I just want to maintain. That's not good enough. We're Americans. We have to lead. I moved to Texas because I want to live in a state that thrives, not survives, thrives. I want to live in a state that leaves me alone and lets me fail or succeed, because failure is just as important as success. I want to live in a state that is an economic beacon to the rest of the world. What do you think Texas is? Who else is doing what Texas is doing right now? People are moving in from all over the country and the world to Texas. Why? Because they leave people alone to create. When you leave people alone and you encourage them to be good, amazing things happen. I want to live in a state like that. And I want to live in a state that is so well prepared that it will help the other states when they're falling apart. See, that's the way it works. The trickle-down theory does work, except in an emergency. It doesn't work that way in an emergency, especially a global crisis. It starts with you and your home. The next is, how's your neighborhood? What are your neighbors going to be doing? If your neighbors are setting each other on fire, you're done. They're the first to come to your house and take everything you've prepared. So how's your neighborhood? And outside of your neighborhood, I mean, you might live in a gated community. Well, good for you. If your state is crazy, Hello, Massachusetts, New York, and pretty much everything in New England. Your gated community is done. And your country. And then the world. What's going to happen is all of this stuff is going to collapse, and everybody's going to look here, and they're going to look here. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is going to look here. It doesn't work that way. My theory from the beginning has been that as the economy gets worse, people are going to start pushing these problems higher and higher, which they already have. And before it gets better, it's going to get worse. I don't see how we miss a bubble bursting. But we can only delay for so long before it happens, because that's natural. As the dominoes start to fall, they'll push for bigger and bigger government, and structure will come. You don't want the structure. You don't want to be living in an area where people are begging for the structure because they can't make it on their own. The real solution is to get smaller. But here's the catch. That solution doesn't work if you aren't ready to take care of yourself. Can you be a shelter for others who haven't properly braced for the storm? The answer is no, unless your neighbors are like that. There is a storm brewing. And you know it if you just go to the store. Corn and soybean prices hit yesterday highs, record highs. We told you this would happen a year ago. You know it. You've been telling your friends. The main culprit, worse than expected crop damages from the drought. Stuff happens. Corn is now up 68% from June. You know, some farmers are feeding their cattle candy. I'm not kidding you. Soybeans are 39% higher. Crops in Ohio and eastern Indiana are far below normal. South Dakota says its output is stunningly low. According to Jim Rogers, he pointed to the increasingly crippling debt as a multiplying factor. He said, quote, in 2002, we had an economic slowdown, which was fairly serious. And then in 2007 and 8, we had another one, which was worse. Because the debt was so much bigger. The next time around, the debt is going to be that much more catastrophic. Only a matter of time. He added that even when the weather finally cooperates, it's not going to make things much better because, quote, we've consumed more than we've produced nearly every year over the last decade, so inventories are very low. And here's the most obvious problem. We're running out of farmers. They're getting old. The average age of a farmer in America is 58. I mean, have you ever tried farming? Oof. It's tough. Few students are even pursuing the profession. More people study public relations than agriculture. Government regulations are making it increasingly difficult for farmers to prepare their kids to one day take over for the farm. You can't have your kids work on the farm. You're not going to find many academic elites in their tweed jackets encouraging students to pursue farming. Oh, you could get dirty doing that. The most likely thing you'll hear about farmers in a college setting is that farmers are simple-minded. But here's the most disturbing thing Jim Rogers said.